So right now I'm in Great Bend, Kansas, and I went to this right across the street from the airport in Great Bend. There was a trailer park, and some girl was killed there back in 1980. And so when I'm going to the location, I see like that there's like a trailer, or like a mobile home or a single wide, and there's like a family there, right? And it's like an older guy, maybe like in his early 60s, and then there's like a white dude, his wife, and maybe their kid. And I'm like, all right, there's not many neighbors around here. They kind of live like out on the outskirts of town. So normally when I'm in this situation, normally, like if I'm gonna be there longer than 20 minutes, I always say like, hey man, my name is Lamont. I'm just doing a quick story about a crime. I'll be here about 10, 15 minutes, and then that's it, I split. And very rarely do I have to do that, but they're usually cool when I do it. So this time I'm only gonna be there about 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. And then this older dude comes out, and he jumps out of his truck. He's about 5'0", and he goes, before he says anything, I don't even give him a chance to talk. I said, hey man, I said, my name's Lamont Dorsey. I said, I'm doing a story about this lady that was murdered here back in 1980. I said, do you remember the story? And he's like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. I said, I'm just here to get about 2 minutes of video. I said, you'll never see me again. And he says, well, do you have the permission of the property owner? And I said, I don't need the permission of anybody. I said, I'm just gonna do the video. And he says, I think I should call him. He goes, but before he said that, he's like, here, I'll tell you where to go. And I got such a fucking problem with people trying to fucking tell me what I can and can't do. Ever since I was 5, I got that problem. And I told him, I said, nobody tells me where to go, so you don't need to tell me what I'm gonna do. I'm not going on your property. I'm walking on the side of the road on public streets while I talk about this crime. And he goes, well, we'll see about that. And he starts calling like this landlord asswipe. And I said, he said, yeah, man, because you ain't never. I said, listen, I told him, I said, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just want to get this story done and get out of here. And he says, you ain't rude. He goes, because I'll tell you, if you want to know rude, you ain't never met a son of a bitch like me. And I said to myself, only a fucking Gafkin that has a gun that is readily within reach would ever speak to me that way. Because this dude is too little to be talking to a dude like me without knowing that he has a firearm probably in his truck. And little shitheads like that never cease to amaze me, because it's always the little shitheads that they think they're big and bad and tough. And I'm like, dude, there's 330 million guns in this country. I mean, you can't be going around trying to talk that way to certain people like that, because motherfucker, you're not the only one in Great Bend that has a fucking firearm, you fucking dumbass. Anyways, so then the white dude and his wife and his family, they come up, and then I quickly, because the guy pulled off, and I told him, I said, go call the police, go call who you want to call. I don't give a shit. And then the other guy comes up, and I quickly introduced myself. I said, hey, my name is Lamont Dorsey. I said, I'm doing a story about the murder that happened here. And then the wife was like, oh, I know the one that was just solved. I was like, yeah. And then so we started talking, and then they were cool. Because like, listen, he has kids. I could be a fucking creep. Not saying I'm not, but in that way. So always want to diffuse a situation. That little fucking brown leprechaun, I don't know what the fuck he was or what he was on. He's probably on meth. But I don't know. The things that I gotta do to create content, I tell you. I didn't know there was a Harbor Freight here.